Still remember the exact moment my world cracked open. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was a quiet kind of pain, the kind that sits in your chest and refuses to move. My name is Daniel, and until that moment, I actually believed in second chances, in forgiveness, in rebuilding trust, in giving people room to grow. But then came the day she looked me in the eyes and expected me to forgive her again. Her name is Lena. We were together for almost 5 years. 5 years of laughter, shared dreams, late-night talks, and plans for a future I thought we both wanted. I trusted her more than anyone. I believed her even when her words didn't make sense. I defended her even when others warned me. But on that day, the day she expected mercy, I learned that some betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from the people who smile at you while breaking you slow. And yet, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't confront her with anger. Because in that moment, I understood something powerful. She expected forgiveness. But I had a plan. A plan that would reveal everything she tried to hide. Before I tell you what happened, before I show you how the truth unfolded, you need to understand the years that led up to this moment. Because no betrayal arrives overnight. It grows quietly, like a shadow you never notice until it's too late. So let me take you back. Back to where it all began. Back to the first cracks in the story she tried so hard to control. When I met Lena, she felt like light. She had that kind of energy that filled a room instantly. Everyone liked her. Everyone trusted her. She had a soft voice, warm eyes, and a way of making you feel like the only person who mattered. We met at a friend's birthday dinner. She laughed at every one of my awkward jokes. She told me she admired honest people and that she could always look into someone's eyes and tell if they meant what they said. I should have asked myself, what about people who can lie while smiling? But back then, I wasn't thinking that far. We fell into a relationship fast, the kind where weeks feel like months and months feel like you've known each other forever. She talked about growing old together. She talked about building a home. She talked about loyalty. And I believed her. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? I didn't grow up with drama. I didn't grow up with betrayal. When someone said they loved me, I took it at face value. But slowly, very slowly, things changed. It started with small lies. Ones you tell yourself aren't worth a fight. Sorry, I fell asleep. Sorry, my phone died. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. Little things. Tiny cracks. Easy to ignore. Because when you love someone, you want peace, not conflict. But the thing about tiny cracks is that eventually they become the reason the whole thing collapses. One night, I noticed she started guarding her phone. She tilted the screen away from me. Notifications were suddenly muted. Her passwords changed. All of them. When I asked, she said, "Daniel, seriously? I'm just protecting my privacy. Everyone deserves that." And she was right. Everyone does deserve privacy. But secrecy? Secrecy is a different thing. Still, I let it go. Because that's what trust looks like, right? You give people space. You assume the best. But looking back now, I realize something painful. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who rely on that trust to hide what they're doing. Months passed. The distance grew. But every time I asked if something was wrong, she'd give me that soft smile and say, "Baby, everything's fine. You just worry too much." And I believed her. Again. And again. And again. Until the day everything broke. The truth didn't reveal itself dramatically. There was no dramatic confrontation. No suspicious message popping up on her screen. No stranger calling me with some shocking secret. It was simpler than that. One evening, Lena left her laptop open while taking a shower. Not unusual. She always used it for work, movies, or browsing. But this time there was an email on the screen. Not opened, just highlighted. Just enough of the subject line visible. "We need to talk before he finds out." I froze. You know that cold wave that hits your body when something feels wrong? That feeling that makes everything around you go silent? That was the exact moment I knew. I didn't need to open anything. I didn't need to click. The truth was already there, breathing between the words. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. But I forced myself to stay calm, to stay rational, because anger makes you blind. But silence? Silence lets you see everything. I closed the laptop gently, pretending I never touched it. When she came back out, dripping water and wrapped in a towel, she smiled and kissed my forehead like nothing was wrong. And I stared at her thinking, how long has this been happening? How long has she been hiding? And how long has she believed I'd never see it? The next few days I watched her. Not in a controlling way, but in an observant one. Patterns appeared. Excuses lined up perfectly. Stories matched too conveniently. Her late meetings. Her exhausted nights. Her stress headaches. All suddenly made sense. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because confronting her would give her power. It would give her time to adjust the story, twist the truth, paint herself as the victim.
No.
If she wanted to play with secrets, I'd give her something she never expected. Calmness, patience, and a plan she didn't see coming. I needed the full truth. Not a piece of it. Not half of it. Everything. And to get that truth, I had to let her believe she was still safe. So I played along. I smiled. I listened. I acted normal. Meanwhile, I was building something. A plan. A quiet one. A patient one. One that wouldn't destroy her, but would reveal her. Reveal everything she'd been hiding. Everything she thought she was clever enough to keep secret. She expected forgiveness. But forgiveness was never the plan.
Truth was.
The truth didn't explode into my life. It leaked in slow, steady, like rain sliding down a cracked window. Little details I hadn't noticed before suddenly made sense. I knew I needed to uncover everything without tipping her off. So I began observing her routine with a level of calm she never expected. And the more I watched, the clearer the picture became. Every Thursday night, she claimed she had a late team review. Every Saturday morning, she went to the gym, yet always returned barely sweaty. Every time her phone buzzed, her smile flickered, just a fraction, before she flipped the screen face down. The signs were all there. But signs weren't enough for me. I needed proof. Not to hurt her, but to free myself from the lie I'd been living in. One night, she fell asleep early. Her breathing was soft, slow, calm.
Too calm.
Like someone pretending to be asleep. I stepped out of bed quietly, grabbed her phone from the nightstand, and walked into the hallway. I didn't try guessing passwords. I wasn't going to invade her privacy. But I wanted to see one thing, something small, something simple. Her notifications.
And that was enough.
A series of messages flashed from the same contact. Not a name, initials. Just AC, the preview showed. Tomorrow. Same place. We need to talk about him. And below it, he suspects nothing. Don't slip. I felt something tighten in my chest.
Shock.
Anger. Sadness. All tangled together. But one emotion overpowered them all. Clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't bad timing or stress or work pressure. This was betrayal.
Planned.
Organized. Hidden behind months of soft smiles and fake reassurances. I put the phone back exactly where it was and returned to bed. She continued her fake sleeping act, but her breathing changed, just slightly. Maybe she sensed something. Maybe she felt guilt. Or maybe she just feared being found out. Either way, I kept my eyes closed. I didn't move. I let her think she was winning. Because the moment you stop reacting, you become unpredictable. And unpredictable people are dangerous to liars. The next morning, she acted extra sweet. Cooking breakfast. Laughing more. Touching me more often. It was almost performative. That's when I realized something chilling. Betrayers don't fear hurting you. They fear losing control over the version of the story they created. And she was losing control fast. That Saturday, when she grabbed her gym bag and headed out as usual, I waited exactly 6 minutes before walking to the window. She didn't go to the gym. She got into a car I'd never seen before, silver, tinted windows, waiting just around the corner. And sitting in the driver's seat was a man. AC. Her coworker. Her friend. Her someone she barely talks to. They drove off. And I stood there at the window, hands gripping the curtain, heart pounding but mind laser-focused. I wasn't going to chase them. I wasn't going to follow. Not yet. Because watching from the outside wasn't enough anymore. This wasn't about catching her in the act.
It was about understanding why.
Understanding the depth of the lies. I needed to know the whole truth. Every shadow. Every secret. Every conversation she hid behind that innocent smile. She thought she had everything under control. She thought I'd forgive her like always. She thought I'd accept the simple apology she was rehearsing in her mind. But she was wrong. Very wrong. Because forgiveness wasn't in my plan. Truth was. And truth requires patience. I waited until she came home that afternoon. Her hair was slightly messy. Her makeup was faded. Her voice was extra cheerful. Overly cheerful. She kissed my cheek and said, "I missed you today." And I smiled back. I missed you too. Not because I meant it, but because I finally understood the game she was playing. And to reveal the truth, sometimes you have to let the other person think the game is still theirs. That night, she ignored me for her phone again. Same contact. Same initials. I finally made a decision. If truth was going to come out, I needed to see the entire picture. Not a piece. Not a guess. Everything. So I made a quiet plan. A plan she would never see coming. A plan built not on revenge, but on revelation. A plan that would expose the betrayal she never thought I'd discover. A plan that would free me from the lies she wrapped me in. She expected mercy. But mercy wasn't in the story anymore. Revenge isn't loud. Not the kind that truly exposes someone. Real revenge is quiet, patient, measured. It doesn't hit fast. It unfolds slowly, like peeling back the layers of a lie until the truth stands naked in the light. And that's exactly what I needed. Not anger, not shouting, not confrontation, but clarity. Because when someone betrays you for long enough, they start believing they're too clever to be caught. They start living in a world where they think you're blind, where they're the smart one, and you're just the trusting fool they can shape however they want. So I let her keep believing that, while I prepared. Before making any move, I studied her routine, like a detective studies a case. Every lie has a rhythm. Every secret has a schedule. Every betrayal has its habits. Lena was no different. She met AC every Thursday. They messaged at night between 10 p.m. and midnight. Saturdays were their unofficial getaway mornings. And me? I played the role she expected. The forgiving, gentle, trusting partner. But inside, my mind was sharper than ever. I started taking notes. Not to use against her, but to track every detail until the full picture formed. You can't reveal a truth halfway. People will twist it, deny it, manipulate it. You need to show the whole thing at once. In full. With no escape left. And I was getting close. I changed how I behaved just slightly, not enough for her to notice, but enough to shift the dynamic. Instead of reaching for her, I created space. Instead of asking about her day, I let her talk only if she wanted to. Instead of initiating affection, I waited for her to make the first move. And she did. A lot. It wasn't love. It was guilt. Nervousness. Fear of the truth she felt slipping through her fingers. She draped herself over me at night. Held my hand more. Kissed me more softly. Called me by old pet names she hadn't used in months. She was trying to rewrite the story, trying to convince herself that she was still the loving partner, and I was still the forgiving man she could depend on. But I wasn't that man anymore. Not after seeing what she hid. Because betrayal doesn't just break trust, it transforms you into someone who sees the world differently. And what I saw now were cracks everywhere. Cracks in her smile. Cracks in her stories. Cracks in her voice. She was slipping and she didn't even know it. To truly reveal someone, you don't expose them yourself. You let them expose themselves. So I did something subtle. I started agreeing with everything she said. No matter how suspicious. No matter how strange. No matter how obviously fabricated. A lie collapses faster when it has no resistance. She'd say, I'm working late this week. I'd nod. Of course. You're always working so hard. She'd mention a friend I'd never heard of. I smiled. That's great. You deserve time with people who make you happy. She'd cancel our plans. I'd say, no problem. We'll do something another day. And each time I responded like that, her eyes softened, her shoulders relaxed, her guard fell just a little more. Because she thought the danger was gone. She thought the suspicion disappeared. She thought she'd regained control. But what she didn't realize was this. The calmer I became, the louder her lies sounded. I never touched her phone again. I never opened her laptop. I never followed her physically. Because catching someone red-handed gives them an excuse to twist the story. But catching them in a lie they built themselves leaves them with nowhere to run. Instead, I followed behavior. Timing. Patterns. And that's when I noticed something new. She wasn't just meeting AC. She was planning something with him. Something bigger. Something secret. Something she didn't want me anywhere near. Conversations she'd whisper in the bathroom. Emails she typed with her screen dimmed. Nervous glances every time she heard the slightest sound. I didn't know what the plan was yet. But I knew this. People who betray you always have a second betrayal hiding behind the first. And I was about to uncover it. I needed her to feel perfectly safe. I needed her to believe she still controlled the story. I needed her confident enough to make mistakes. So one night, at dinner, I said something simple. Lena, I've been thinking. We should take a little trip together. Just us. Something peaceful. Her fork froze midair. Her eyes widened for just a second. That second told me everything.
She was planning something.
Something she feared the trip would interrupt. Something she couldn't postpone. But she forced a smile. She squeezed my hand. She said, "That sounds amazing, Daniel." And that moment was the confirmation I needed. Because when someone lies, their words don't matter. Their reaction does. That night, while she slept, I stood by the bedroom window and looked out into the quiet street. The air felt heavy, but my mind felt clearer than it had in months. I wasn't acting from anger. Not anymore. Anger burns fast. It fades. It clouds judgment. But clarity is cold, steady, sharp. And with clarity came the realization. She wasn't just betraying me. She was building a life behind my back and waiting for the right time to replace me. But she didn't know something important. I wasn't going to confront her early. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to ask for explanations. I was going to reveal the truth in a single moment, one she could never twist, deny, or escape. A moment she'd remember for the rest of her life. Because she expected mercy. But what she was about to get was truth. And truth hits harder than any revenge ever could. There comes a moment in every story of betrayal when the liar feels the shift. They don't know why. They don't know how. But something inside them whispers, "You're losing control." And for Lena, that moment came sooner than she expected. It started with a question she didn't expect. One quiet morning over coffee, I asked her something harmless. "Are you happy these days?" That was it. Just 7 simple words. But the way she reacted, you'd think I asked her to confess every secret she'd ever buried. Her fingers tightened around her mug. Her smile twitched. Her eyes flicked away, then back again. "Of course I'm happy," she said too quickly. "Why would you even ask that?" I shrugged. "No reason. Just checking in." And that one calm answer, delivered with steady eyes and a relaxed voice, made her visibly nervous. Because liars are comfortable when you're emotional. They know how to handle tears. They know how to handle accusations. They've practiced their excuses, their denials, their explanations. But calmness? Calmness terrifies them. Because calmness means you're thinking. It means you're watching. It means you're no longer predictable. And when I stayed calm, Lena felt it. She couldn't name it. She couldn't describe it, but she sensed the shift. A small crack opened that morning. And over the next days, that crack widened. She became too careful, too conscious of her behavior, too aware of her own patterns. Every lie became slightly shakier. Every story a little more inconsistent. Every explanation too long, too detailed, too rehearsed. One night, she said, "I'll be home late. Don't wait up."
Usually she said this casually.
But this time, her voice trembled just a little. Not enough for most people to notice. But I noticed everything now. I simply nodded. "All right. Stay safe." That response, not demanding details, not asking where she was going, not showing jealousy or suspicion, made her swallow hard. She wasn't expecting calm cooperation. She was expecting friction, drama, emotion, because people who betray you depend on your reactions. Your reactions distract them from their guilt. But I wasn't giving her any distractions. I was giving her silence. And silence? Silence makes liars crumble. It happened on a Thursday, the day she usually met him. She got dressed earlier than normal, took more time with her makeup, checked her phone more frequently, paced around the living room like she was waiting for a message that didn't come. I sat on the couch pretending to scroll my phone. She thought I wasn't paying attention.
But I saw everything.
When she finally grabbed her bag and headed out, she paused at the door. "Daniel, you're being really quiet this week." I looked up, my expression neutral.
Calm. Steady.
"Just thinking a lot," I said. Her voice wavered. "About what?" "Life.
Us.
The future." She froze. I could see the fear flash across her face, so quick she probably hoped I hadn't caught it. But I did. She forced a shaky smile.
"Oh.
"Well, when I get back, we can talk if you want." "That sounds good," I said gently. And that was the moment, the exact moment, I saw something shift inside her. She realized the power dynamic had changed. She wasn't in control anymore. She wasn't guiding the story. She wasn't leading the narrative. For the first time, she felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. She walked out the door slower than usual, hesitating, turning back once to look at me sitting there calmly. She didn't know what scared her more, my lack of anger or my lack of questions. Because when the betrayed person stops asking questions, the betrayer starts imagining the answers. Her return that night was revealing. She came home a little after midnight, hair slightly messy, perfume fading, eyes filled with tension. But she didn't walk in with guilt. She walked in with fear. Fear of what I might know. Fear of what I might say. Fear of what silence means. "Hey," she said softly, her voice unusually tender, like she was walking on thin ice. "Hey," I replied, not cold, not warm. "Just steady." She swallowed. "How was your night?" "Peaceful." The word hit her harder than any accusation. Peaceful. Because peaceful meant I wasn't stewing in anger. I wasn't pacing, waiting, questioning, doubting. Peaceful meant something else entirely. It meant preparation. And she knew it. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands clasped tightly, eyes darting around as if searching for clues. Finally, she whispered, "Daniel, is something wrong?" I looked at her for a long, quiet moment. Why would something be wrong? She could hear the double meaning. Anyone could. Calm words layered with something deeper. Her breath caught. She bit her lip. She couldn't even form a reply. Because deep down, she feared one thing. I knew. The shift in her behavior became obvious. Over the next few days, she canceled her usual meetings. She texted constantly, but hid her screen even more. She cooked dinner more often. She touched me more, complimented me more, checked on me more. She asked me 3 times in one day, "Are you sure we're okay?" And the more sweet she became, the more certain I was. Not of her love, but of her guilt. Because guilt shows itself in overcompensation, in forced affection, in dramatic concern, especially when the liar senses something slipping out of their control. And that's when she made the mistake, the one that finally exposed everything. She slipped. One evening, she said she was going to her sister's place. A harmless, believable excuse. But when she grabbed her keys, she said something too quickly. "I'll be back by 10. Her sister lived 45 minutes away. If she truly planned to visit, 10 wasn't even realistic. And the second she realized her mistake, she froze. Her eyes lifted to meet mine, searching for a reaction that didn't come. I smiled gently. Have a good time. The softness in my voice sent a visible shiver through her. She wasn't afraid of a confrontation. She was afraid of the lack of one. Because when someone betrays you, they prepare explanations for the questions they expect. But when you don't ask those questions, they lose their script. And she had no script left. She walked out the door slowly, glancing back one last time, eyes filled with dread. She knew. She didn't know what I knew, but she knew I knew something. And that changed everything. Because once fear enters the mind of a liar, their whole world begins to collapse. The turning point was here. She thought I still loved blindly. She thought I still trusted every word. She thought I was still the man she could manipulate with soft voices and sad eyes. But what she didn't know was, I wasn't planning revenge. I was planning truth. And truth, real truth, does not knock. It arrives quietly,
Steadily.
unstoppably, and it was coming for her. She felt it, even if she couldn't see it yet. The moment everything turned had finally arrived. And there was no going back. It all came together one quiet evening. Lena thought she was safe. She thought I still trusted her. She thought everything was under control. She was wrong. I had arranged everything carefully. Nothing aggressive. Nothing threatening. Just truth, patience, and a setup that left no room for excuses. I invited her for a simple dinner at home. Nothing fancy. Just the two of us. A peaceful atmosphere, soft lighting. She smiled, unaware of the storm I had built silently over weeks. And that's when I struck, not with anger, but with clarity. We were sitting across from each other. I poured some wine for both of us, took a slow breath, and said, Lena, do you want to tell me why you think I'd forgive everything without knowing the truth? Her fork froze midair. Her eyes darted around. Her mouth opened, then closed. That small, quiet line shattered the calm she thought she had created. Daniel. I don't know what you mean, she said, voice shaking. I leaned back slightly, still calm, and smiled gently. You don't need to lie. I've been watching. I've been patient.
I know about him.
I know about all the secrets. Her face paled. Her fingers trembled. For the first time, she didn't have an answer prepared. I continued, voice steady, deliberate. You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I would forgive without questions. You were wrong. Dead wrong. She slumped slightly, trying to compose herself. Daniel, please, it's not what you think. I shook my head slowly. No, Lena. I've seen everything. The messages, the meetings, the lies you told to cover them. Every excuse. Every story. Every smile you used to hide the truth. It's all here, and I don't need proof to know how deep it goes. She tried to speak again, her voice barely audible. I didn't mean to hurt you, and I finally let the silence do the work. Because silence, after weeks of careful observation, is louder than any accusation. Silence forces people to confront themselves. Silence leaves no escape. She looked down at the table, her hands shaking. The confident woman who had manipulated words, schedules, and stories was gone, replaced with guilt,
Fear.
regret. I watched her carefully, my calm gaze unwavering. And then it happened. Her lips trembled. Her eyes glistened. Her mask fell completely. She realized something crucial. I wasn't angry. I wasn't seeking revenge. I wasn't here to yell or punish. I was here to show her the truth she thought she could hide. And that truth hurt worse than any shouting ever could. I started slowly. Every Thursday, every secret meeting, every message you tried to hide, it's here. I watched. I observed. I let you believe you were safe. And now, the story is mine to tell. You expected mercy. You expected silence. You expected me to forgive and forget. But I'm not here to forgive. I'm here to understand. To see clearly, and to let you face yourself for once. Her hands covered her face. Her breathing was shallow. Her shame and panic filled the room like a heavy fog. She finally whispered, almost inaudibly, I I thought you wouldn't see. I smiled gently. I did. And now you see yourself. In that quiet living room, the years of manipulation, lies, and betrayal unraveled. She didn't try to argue. She didn't try to deflect. She just sat there overwhelmed. Because the truth doesn't fight back. It simply exists. And when it lands in front of someone who tried to hide from it, it destroys their control. And I realized something in that moment. Revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about letting them see themselves clearly. It's about exposing the lies they built to protect themselves. And that exposure was infinitely more powerful than anger ever could be. By the time she left that night, nothing had been said about ending the relationship. There was no screaming, no dramatics, just quiet understanding. She didn't know what to do. I didn't need to tell her. The revelation had done its work. The day after the confrontation, the house felt different. The tension lingered in the air like dust. Every corner seemed heavier. Every sound echoed louder. Lena didn't speak much. She moved carefully, almost afraid of breaking the fragile balance. Her eyes avoided mine, not out of fear of confrontation, but out of fear of seeing herself clearly. It was a quiet collapse. Not dramatic. Not theatrical. Just inevitable. She stopped making excuses. She stopped hiding messages. She even deleted the accounts and contacts she thought I'd never find. And every move she made reminded her of that one night, the night she realized she had underestimated me. I didn't push her. I didn't interrogate her. I simply existed in that calm, observant way I had maintained for weeks. And that quiet, that patience was more powerful than any confrontation she could have prepared for. By the end of the week, she looked exhausted. Not physically, but emotionally. She had realized she had built a life on lies. And the truth had arrived. And there was no hiding it anymore. Weeks passed, and things slowly returned to a new normal. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't consumed by revenge. I had clarity. And clarity is freedom. Lena and we talked occasionally, calmly. We didn't rebuild what had been broken. We didn't pretend the lies didn't exist. But we understood something fundamental. Trust, once broken, changes everything. And forgiveness doesn't erase deceit. For me, the biggest lesson wasn't about her betrayal. It was about myself. I learned that patience and observation are stronger than anger. That calmness is a weapon when wielded correctly. That letting someone reveal themselves is more powerful than forcing a confession. And most importantly, I learned that sometimes the most dramatic revenge isn't shouting, or confrontation, or chaos. It's truth. Quiet, undeniable truth. The kind that leaves someone staring at themselves and realizing that their lies, manipulation, and deceit have no power over you anymore. So, what does this story teach? First, never underestimate patience. A calm, observant mind sees what anger and frustration cannot. Second, trust cautiously but wisely. People you love may hurt you, not out of malice, but because they believe you'll never notice. Third, truth is stronger than revenge. Anger fades. Resentment burns out. But truth? Truth is timeless. It exposes, it teaches, it liberates. Lena expected mercy. She expected forgiveness. She expected me to remain the man she could manipulate with words and charm. But what she got was patience, observation, and a quiet, undeniable revelation. And in the end, that's the most powerful way to show someone the consequences of their actions. Because life is not about shouting louder than the lies. It's about standing calmly, watching clearly, and letting the truth do what it does best: uncover, reveal, and liberate. So, if you've ever been betrayed or felt someone was hiding the truth from you, remember this story. Patience, clarity, and truth are the most devastating and freeing forces you will ever encounter. And sometimes the best revenge isn't anger. It's simply letting someone see themselves.